check, check, check. Okay. Level good, level good. Okay. Lord, Lord, Lord. Okay. Good morning, YouTube. It's Scotty Bones. I find myself on the coast of Mexico here on November 23rd, 2024. I have mere hours left until I take a bus back to the airport to return to the United States for 1 or 2 months. While I still have a few hours left in Mexico, I wanted to touch on a couple subjects for no particular reason, in no particular order. The first one is Bitcoin. Now that Bitcoin is about to crack the 100,000 mark for the first time ever, I just wonder, and I continue to wonder, and I wondered before the $100,000 mark, if Bitcoin was actually created, as some say, by some intelligence agency or some nefarious person within the dark, wet operations of the dark deep state. Now that I've said that, I'll probably get some sort of community note version on YouTube talking about the deep state because they don't want you to understand anything that they don't want you to understand. Just ridiculous. Anyway, I'm willing to entertain all ideas about Bitcoin, from the foundations of the Bitcoin with, what's his name, Hal, can't remember his name, the guy, the early guys, Satoshi, sending emails back and forth in 2009 about starting this little cool thing up. And I've read the Bitcoin white paper. I fairly understand how the whole thing works. I'm a little bit shaky on the Bitcoin mining. I read it and I understood it, but now I can't remember it. So as far as the Bitcoin network, how everything, all the pieces fit together and work, I'm on board with that. I think it is unassailable to my mind, although my mind isn't vast enough to probably think of all the ways over a long time spans smarter people attacking the system could do something. But at this point, I think that the Bitcoin network is secure. That said, I do wonder about banks' ability to print money to buy Bitcoin. That seems kind of not a good thing. Again, no monetary theorist here, whether you're a Keynesian or a Austrian school guy or whatever, there are questions to be asked about that. Nothing should be off the table, okay? If we're talking about central bankers who have been around for hundreds of years, for example, you could trace the guy, one of the guys that started the bank here in northern neighbor to where I am now, the guy with the big walrus mustache, you might know who I'm talking about, had their start in Venice, Italy, back in the 1600s. One Abraham del Banco, isn't that a good name? Abraham del Banco goes to Hamburg and starts up a family bank, and he becomes affiliated with some people, and they take a ship across the ocean and they start up another thing in the new country across the ocean. Anyway, sorry for the Bob Dylan voice. That said, how could something as clever as Bitcoin be slipped under the door and allowed to incubate and grow until it became unstoppable by these people who are very much interested in being in control? How did that happen? Golly, that's a good question. It leads to some very interesting possibilities for doing research. Research. Now, isn't research a dog whistle for some sort of people who follow a certain letter in the alphabet? Do your research. Okay, I'll do my research. but it would be an interesting avenue to poke into some history, read at least 50 to 100 books about the history of these subjects, and see what you find. Anyway, Bitcoin, good question. How could it be controlled? First layer, not controllable, perhaps. Maybe that's a good thing, because that problem has been solved. Nobody can mess with a blockchain of Bitcoin. Second layer questions lead to more interesting ideas about how things could be controlled, because as we know, the people who run the shop, they are very good at layering their own things on top of things that exist below, and then throwing the fairy dust in our eyes so that we forget that things exist below that still have jurisdiction, that still are existent, but we have been trained to operate on second and third layers of systems. So how does the second layer get co-opted completely while this awesome blockchain remains the same? Led Zeppelin reference. Living in Mexico, would it be so great if the exchange rate wasn't so great? Good question again. Is it awesome enough to exist here as a foreigner, as an immigrant, without a bitchin' 20-to-1 exchange rate and the purchasing power that that gives us as visitors here in this country? USA, what's going on up there in the USA? Is it awesome enough to stay there despite all of the things that are happening? Is this new administration all it's cracked up to be? Do we see signs that it may already be going in a direction that might not be good? But we are so caught up in the euphoria that we have won. And now, as they say on X, we are so back. Fire emoji, fire emoji. Good question. Again, we have to think about these things. Whose side are we on? Whose side do we think we are on? Whose side are we working for without realizing it? Good questions, all of these. Just keep asking questions. Don't stop asking. And we'll see you on the other side sometime later in this month of November, after giving thanks in the United States for all the things that we still have, all of the things that we may have in the future. Talk to you soon.